Okay, everybody. Welcome to today's presentation. I'm just going to, looks like there's a few more people signing on to this webinar. Um, this is called 10 College Commandments, and my name is Andy Lockwood. I don't usually wear pajamas, but I wanted you guys to relax. So anyway, all right. So what this is really a mini sort of version or an encapsulation, I guess, of what I believe to be the sort of best set of guiding principles or overarching type of philosophy of how I think that the college planning process should happen. It is by no means an exhaustive presentation, hopefully not exhausting, but it's designed really to serve as an introduction to anyone in terms of how we think about things, how we conceive how the process should work, that type of things. And at the end, if you want more information on how this process can apply to you, I will give that. All right, so the first thing we need to talk about is that college is really expensive, but is that even relevant? My feeling is that you shouldn't rule out expensive schools on sticker price alone because many colleges are what I call income agnostic. They discount even for affluent families. What I mean by that is that statistically, the average discount rate of high sticker price colleges, meaning private colleges, is 45%. That's the average. So there are deals out there, and sometimes you can qualify by rearranging things financially in a legal and ethical way. Some assets count against you more than others. Some do not count against you at all. Sometimes it's really more of a function of what pond you're fishing in. I have probably 30%, maybe 33% of my clients do not qualify for need-based financial aid at all because they earn high incomes, in many cases seven-figure incomes. However, they can get $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, sometimes even more off per year, depending on the colleges that they identify. So that's what I mean by fishing in the right pond. Okay, next commandment. You should be thinking about your list of colleges strategically. What a lot of kids do is they kind of apply the schools that their buddies are interested in, girls or guys are interested in, or the stickers on the rear windows of the cars driving around their neighborhood, what colleges are featured there. And my approach, my firm belief, and I think this is a major shortcoming of guidance departments, and I'm not here to bash guidance counselors, by the way, but I don't think kids or parents or guidance counselors choose colleges strategically. So what I mean by that is, let's say that the first part of a strategy is figuring out what your goal is, as opposed to what a lot of kids engage in, which are tactics. There's a difference between tactics and strategy. Tactics are just things you do. Hopefully you have a strategy, but you don't necessarily have one. So tactic could be, okay, I'm going to take the SAT 5 times, and I'm going to take 3 review classes. But the strategic aspect of that would be, okay, well, because I want to get into these set of colleges, which is a subset of, because I want to have these type of opportunities available to me after college. So what's the goal? I don't think you can have a goal. I don't think it's fair to expect 16 or 17-year-old kids to know exactly what they want to do the rest of their lives, because frankly some adults do. That's one reason why that's unreasonable. Some adults have no idea, I should have said. And the other reason, the whole statistical reason, is that something like 70% of kids change their majors once they're in college. So I always am a little skeptical when I see like a ninth grader in my office who's considering retaining us, and they tell me that they've always wanted to be a neurolinguistic, parapsychologist, nanotechnology guy. And I'm like, really? Yeah, since I was 4, I've always been interested in that stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. My feeling is that what you should be doing is figuring out the types of things, maybe picking 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever overlapping types of majors that you are interested in pursuing once you're in college, and that is a process. And then saying, okay, well, it's now 2014. Here are the 3 or 4 things that I think that my 2019 may look like 5 years out. So now let's look at what needs to happen as we backward plan from 2019. And the schools that may help you accomplish those 3, 4, or 5 hopefully overlapping types of career goals or outcomes in 2019, they may not be the ones on the rear window stickers of the schools in your neighborhood. I think a fair amount should be, but not each and every last one. So be strategic about this. That involves asking some basic questions, and there are tools that you can do that with. Many are free, some are small fee type tools, but I think this type of analysis and self-exploration is so needed now more than ever. So be strategic. All right. Number 3, get a handle on the cost and financial aid formulas by the end of your junior year. I would say even earlier, sophomore year is better. But each college now on its website for the last couple of years publishes what's called the net cost calculator, sometimes called a net price calculator. And what that's designed to show is that, okay, well, based on your income, your assets, and your child's academic credentials, here are the estimated net prices to you of the colleges that you're looking at. So you may be able to see that a college that costs $65,000 a year, based on the preliminary info that you put in their net price calculator, or net cost calculator, may actually end up costing you a mere $45,000. It's a bargain, right? So check out, if you look on any college website, you'll find a net price calculator, a net cost calculator. And the other thing that you should be doing, because you will not find this in the net cost calculator, is you should be looking at how you can improve your eligibility within the financial aid formulas. So I talked before, as a side note, that some assets count against you more than others, some don't count against you at all. One great resource for you to learn about this stuff is my book, How to Pay Wholesale for College. And there's a link on this page for you to download it for free. It's sold for $39. I'm giving it away to as many people as I can. So that talks about which stuff counts against you more than others, which doesn't. But do those 2 things. Learn about the formulas and play around with the calculators. All right, next commandment, next college commandment. Determine what, if anything, you can do to lower your estimated family contribution. It's actually expected family contribution. Damn typo. All right, I made it. It's my fault. So, so this is part and parcel of what I was saying before. First, learn the formulas, and now figure out what you can do. So if you have money saved in the wrong places, maybe money in your child's name, it may make sense for you to shift some things around so you can lower your expected family contribution, and then therefore you will increase your eligibility. So this commandment is part and parcel with commandment number 3. All right, this is a big one here. You got to know your deadlines. Don't blow your deadlines. People, especially students, are very aware of their priority, I should say their early application and early decision deadlines to apply to college, but 99 times out of 100, they're completely oblivious about the priority financial aid deadlines. Each college has its own priority financial aid deadline. Please do not blow it. Please do not forget to look that up as you finalize your college list. For example, you may have heard, you've got to get your FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, FAFSA, F-A-F-S-A. You have to get that in by January. No, you can't do a FAFSA before January. They don't release the academic year's FAFSA until after January 1st. Or you may have heard, I can't do my financial aid forms. I haven't done my taxes. Well, that's a problem if your financial aid priority deadline is February 15th. Or, I don't know about this stuff. I'm just going to go to my high school financial aid night. I was looking at a local high school here in Long Island. Their financial aid night is in January. The problem is that probably 2/3 of the class of this particular high school. It's a very affluent, well-regarded high school on the North Shore of Long Island. About 66% or whatever of the students will be applying early action or early decision to many private colleges, which may have application deadlines of November 1st or November 15th. And there's a very good chance that they will also have priority financial aid deadlines November 1st or November 15th. So the financial aid night of the school in January will be completely useless in terms of deadlines for 2/3 of the class. And plus, they're not that good anyway, but I don't want to bash those. So the bottom line is you have to look up each and every school's priority financial aid deadline. One last warning, it ain't easy. They bury them. Okay. Let's look at the next commandment. So, commandment number 6, evidenced by this photo. Which one of you sharp geeks can identify the source of this photo? One of my favorite movies. Anyway, commandment number 6. Apply to colleges that compete against one another. Colleges are engaged in a battle to the death of involving getting butts in seats, butts that represent dollars. And it's not just about kids chasing the schools around. It's part of the strategy that I mentioned last slide should be to engineer it so that the colleges are chasing your child around, not vice versa. So strategic college selection means strategy in light of what the hell do you want to do the rest of your life? Exploring that, at least, not finalizing it. Second, it means applying to schools that are likely to fund you. And the third is applying to colleges that meet both 1 and 2 and also compete against each other. So on a list of 10 schools or 11 schools or something, I think it's good to have 2 or 3 schools that historically have competed against one another, because then what happens is you should get in and get awards, and you have a shot at playing the schools off against each other to improve those financial aid awards. And by financial aid awards, I mean merit-based and I mean need-based. It doesn't matter. Colleges, even schools that say that they don't engage in this practice, they say that on the record, off the record. I've witnessed many schools that do. When we play schools off against each other, it does not always work. Sometimes we get 0. However, last year we increased an award by $38,760 for 1 year. That was exceptional, not typical. And the year before that, we had an award that was close to that amount. It was $30,000 something. So, can you get an extra $2,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 by doing this? Yeah, that is realistic. Not guaranteed, but realistic. Okay, next commandment. You should be positioning your child at the beginning of high school to answer one fundamental question. Before I get to the question, let me explain to you why I have all this toothpaste here. In my opinion, and which I voice unsolicited, which many people do not appreciate, but what can I tell you? It's a free webinar here, so I'm going to share it. In my opinion, when you are one of 5,000 kids with virtually the same grades and scores, vying for 1,000 spots or 700 spots or whatever the particular statistics bear out at the college you're looking at, you're really a commodity. You have a problem, because in one regard you are the same as thousands of other choices, just like toothpaste. So in this example, you see Colgate and Crest both feature cavity protection. Why would you pick one versus the other? Or Aquafresh, it features whitening. That's the attraction. Does that mean it does not offer cavity protection? So what these toothpastes show is that if you go into Pathmark or CVS or whatever your drugstore is, and you have 60 choices of toothpaste, somehow you make a choice, but it's not usually based on price or features or anything rational. So that's the issue. You need to understand that your child is a toothpaste in the eyes of an admissions officer, and they're looking for ways to figure out the answer to this fundamental question that I mentioned before. Why should we accept you as opposed to these other 5,000 kids with virtually the same stats? Why? And if you can't answer that, then you're not helping yourself in this application. And in my experience, just because I know I can picture some of your reactions in the audience, in my experience, every kid can come up with one distinguishing factor, one unique admissions factor to present to an admissions committee. All right, let's move on. I hope this is not you. Don't do this. When you're writing your college essay, the worst thing you can do is be boring. Now, many people think, well, isn't the college essay about me telling the college how badly I want to go there, or bragging about all of my extracurricular activities and how great I am? Those types of things. No, it's really not. The college essay is really the chance to not regurgitate other parts of your application that are already in plain sight. It's not to brag. It's not to talk about how your 3 days in the Israeli army changed your life forever and always. It's just to stand out and be interesting. You don't have to have cured cancer, any of that stuff. You just want to be, it should be a chance for the admissions committee to get to know you. It should not be polished by some, overpriced consultant, present company excluded. It's got to sound like it's written by a kid. It's a chance for the admissions committee to look beyond the other parts of your application. Now, one area where I think this is very important is not so much in the main common application essay question, but you'll see this played out in many of the supplemental questions that are asked by colleges. And some of these questions are really goofy. They're really quirky. What did you eat for breakfast this morning? What did you do last Tuesday? Tweet something about yourself. All these things. Why do those types of questions exist? I would argue that they exist because college admissions officers got so sick and tired of seeing over-polished, dull, just clearly in a voice other than the student type of main essays. So they came up with ways to try to get the kids to come up with ways to transmit to the admissions committee what they're really like, what they are really all about. There's no right or wrong answers to a lot of these questions. The only wrong way to answer is to be boring. So don't do that. All right, now let's talk about your teacher. Commandment number 9, get your teacher recommendations lined up early and strategically. So let's look at each of these. Early means don't wait till the last minute, be considerate. Okay, that's obvious. Strategically is less obvious. What do I mean by strategically? Well, consider that many competitive colleges will weight the teacher recommendations even more heavily than SAT and ACT tests. It's true. A lot of people don't think that, but teacher recommendations can be very, very important. And whether they're number 2 or number 3 in the litany of factors that's considered, it doesn't really matter. Just understand that they are very, very important. So, excuse me, I have a little cold here. So what do I mean by strategically? Well, sure, you should have some academic subjects, core academic subjects, that representing, representing your abilities. But what I mean also is that teachers, if you approach it the right way, would appreciate being coached or being reminded about stuff. So what do I mean by coach? Well, coach could mean like, hey, Professor, Ms. Diaz, I was hoping that you could write my recommendation. I'm applying to a bunch of schools. I am really considering a career in journalism. So do you remember that assignment where we had to interview those veterans from the VFW and blah, 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 blah. So, it's okay to remind them. This way they have a context in which to write your recommendation. And hopefully they say something like, yeah, she once did a special project for me for the class that, not only did she get a really good grade on, but it was really one of the more insightful projects like this that I'd ever seen in my 17 years of teaching. That type of thing. So it's okay to coach them a little bit. And this, the other half of the strategy, I guess, is, if you are a journalism major, you don't necessarily need to have a physics professor write you a recommendation just to show that you're well-rounded. Although I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Uh, I Some people feel compelled to do that. Don't worry about that. Okay. Next commandment. Visit colleges before applying, and there's two main reasons. Number one, you want to make sure that you don't see this guy on campus, or perhaps you want to make sure you see this guy on campus. And what I'm getting at in terms of reason number one is you want to go in there in session so you can see the types of kids who go there. So, for example, if you go to a school and you come away after you see all these kids with like purple hair and piercings all over their body, you might be like, "Whoa, that was awesome! These kids are so different than what I'm used to." Or you could be like, "No way am I hanging out with those guys. They haven't taken a shower in 3 weeks." But you won't know that unless you visit the school before applying. But the other reason, from an admissions strategy standpoint, is that demonstrating interest is a big category under which college visits is a subcategory. It's a way of demonstrating interest to the college. Colleges track every time you visit, you call, you send in one of those reply envelope things, you log on to their special website that they've set up for prospective applicants, all that type of stuff. That's really much more important than ever, and it is entirely in your control, unlike most of the other stuff on a college application, grades and scores and all that type of stuff, which are historic. Demonstrating interest lets a college know that if they admit you, there is a reasonable shot that you will attend. And those two things, those two factors, are embodied in a term of art called yield. Y-I-E-L-D, yield. And yield refers to the percentage of people who are admitted versus who actually matriculate, who actually show up on campus. And the higher the yield, the more competitive the college is in terms of those stupid U.S. News and World Report rankings. It also allows a college to borrow money on better terms. It's like a credit rating for, well, what does a college borrow for? To build the next $20 million athletic facility with the rock climbing wall and the lazy river and the residences, not dorms anymore, but the residences with granite countertop, and nobody shares a room anymore, and the flat panel TVs, all that type of stuff. They borrow for that, and the yield affects the terms under which they can get money. So that's why they care about it. And if you know that now, you will play the game correctly and demonstrate a lot of interest to schools. So those are the two reasons. Okay, we're going to talk about a bonus. Really a mistake. It's a mistake not to start your standardized test prep early and often. So you really, the commandment here is don't. A lot of schools won't even tell you about the PSAT until 11th grade. I think you should take it in 10th grade. Why? Because the more times you do it, the more comfortable you'll get, and the earlier you'll be able to correct any shortfalls or address any shortcomings that you may be experiencing. So standardized test scores, although they may not have the sheen on them that they once did, they are still really, really important. They're either the second most or the third most important thing considered by virtually every school, other than those schools where SATs and ACTs are optional, which there are a handful of schools that are optional, but my experience is that you can it's like playing a sport. The more reps you get in practice with an experienced coach watching you, the better the better prepared you'll be. I am not an SAT prep person or an ACT prep person. I'm constantly asked about who I recommend, and one company I like a lot is Method Test Prep. They are online with 800 schools, and they're good guys. So that's my one recommendation. Method, METHOD, testprep.com. Check them out. The owner of the company's name is Tom. Friends of mine. Okay, let's go on. Another bonus. Understand that your financial aid award package is an offer that can be refused, unlike this photo here. It can be refused. So when you get an award, and this goes hand in hand with the slide I did on negotiating and applying to schools that compete with each other. When you get an award, understand that it is not written in stone, and you can try to improve it. So a lot of people just kind of think they get something in the mail, and they're like, all right, take it or leave it. But no, you can try to negotiate. You can try to appeal it. There's even Ivy League schools that'll say, hey, we will consider reviewing and reassessing your financial aid award under the following 3 conditions. Number 1, the income that you reported on your financial aid form is historic, and it's no longer current, meaning that you had a sudden drop off in your income. Another condition, you had unexpected or unanticipated expenses like medical or other things that cropped up. Because those 2 things, by the way, do not get factored into the financial aid forms. These are non-formulaic things. And sometimes they'll say this explicitly. Cornell says this in its documents. The 3rd condition might be if you got a competitive financial aid award from another competitive school. So Cornell says another Ivy League school or any of the following colleges. So sometimes the schools say it out in black and white. Most of the time they don't. Either way, just remember that your financial aid award package is just a starting point. It's not a final destination. Okay, let's talk about some mistakes, some college kryptonites that could kill you in college planning. Number 1, taking a passive role, relying on your guidance counselor or others instead of yourself to get to where you need to be. Success in the college planning process. All right, so I'm not bashing guidance counselors. In fact, I'm on what's the right word? I'm in an organization with a bunch of guidance counselors. I write a column for a guidance counselor publication, and a lot of them are friends of mine. However, they are overwhelmed. They do not know the college finance stuff. They shouldn't. You should expect them to know the stuff, because in the simple FAFSA form, which is about 100 questions, there's something like 1,100 pages of regulations behind that. So your guidance counselor, your CPA, your stockbroker, these guys are not experts. They may understand bits and pieces of the process, but you can't rely on them to give you the whole picture. So, and I'm not faulting them. I really think it's because guidance counselors are overwhelmed. Tax professionals have, if the FAFSA rules are 1,100 pages, the tax regulations are like several thousand pages. They have a much, they have a much more complex and complicated body of regulatory just crap to deal with. So the financial aid regulations are too much. And stockbrokers and insurance guys or whatever, sometimes they'll make recommendations to shelter money into a product that will do 2 things. It'll improve your eligibility for some schools, maybe not the ones on your list, but for some schools. And number 2, it'll earn them a commission. So you got to be very careful about anyone giving you advice. Do they have do they have the training? Do they have the capacity to give you advice? Do they have their own interest in giving you advice? There are a lot of guys who are in the college planning business. By the way, I'm not one of these guys who have licenses to offer financial products. So there are people who do it the right way, but there are plenty of insurance licensed people who say things like, you could really improve your eligibility by taking money out of this bucket, quote unquote bucket, which is wrong. And if you buy an annuity, which is exempt on the FAFSA, now you've improved your eligibility by $11,000 per year. So, by the way, I sell annuities. Why don't you check out this product? That's a bait and switch. I don't love that approach, but there are people out there who do that. So, number 1, just be aware that there are college planner type people who do that type of thing. And number 2, be aware that that annuity, that strategy may work for some schools, but it may not work for many of the schools on your list, because many private schools, for example, will look at your annuities. So that's just a small example. You can't just automatically assume that everyone has your best interest in mind. You're better off going to someone independent who's an expert. Okay, college kryptonite number 2. See if you can guess what I'm getting at here. There is just so much I was going to say information, but it's not information. It's just so much noise out there. It's very easy to get distracted listening to the chatter. At some point, you have to say, you know what? I don't need more information because it's conflicting enough already. I need someone or some way just to cut through the clutter, and I just want to know what to do. I don't want more information. I need less information. I need clarity. Uh, and I recognize to some extent that you can't escape this. It's like a rite of passage almost. The kids get ready for college, and the moms and dads, have all these conversations on the soccer field, lacrosse field, and all that type of stuff. But you need to be very, very hyper aware of a couple things. Number one, people tend to inflate, their successes. Oh, my kid got a full ride for lacrosse to Princeton, which is interesting because Princeton doesn't offer athletic scholarships because no Ivy League colleges will offer athletic scholarships, or Division III colleges for that matter. That may or may not be something you know. Sometimes people are very reluctant to share information about who helped them because they don't want to admit, that they had someone helping them with their essay, or they don't want to give the name of the good SAT tutor to someone who potentially is competing with their daughter, that type of thing. So you got to I don't really have a better way of saying this, but you have to just, at some point, just shut everyone out and listen to yourself. Don't get carried away with this stuff. College kryptonite number 3. This is maybe even bigger than the last one. It's just procrastinating. It's just, blowing off actions that you can take now. The longer you wait in the college planning process, the fewer options you'll have ultimately. So if you have a senior, I don't know what time of year you're listening to this because we're recording this, but when I'm delivering this right now, it's fall. And if you have a senior, there's still things you can do. If it's after January, there's still things you can do, but fewer than if you had a junior, and far fewer if you had a sophomore. So the earlier you start thinking about, particularly how to position your student, what types of career options they should be thinking about, what types of strategic extracurricular activities they should be engaged in that are not typical, creating that body of work before your junior year, that is more helpful. But you can still do some of it in the 11th hour. But the longer you wait, the worse off you'll be. So please do not procrastinate. You got to take action. So if you're listening to this or watching this presentation, you might be tossing and turning at night over how on God's green earth you'll be able to afford to send your college to her dream college. You might be disappointed by the lack of personalized guidance you assumed that you'd get from your high school. You might be worried that you're not looking at the right, best fit colleges for your child. And you could be concerned that your child's extracurriculars, applications, and essay will not make her stand apart from the herd of competitor applicants with the same grades and scores. You might be suspicious that some families get more financial aid, scholarships, and grants because they learned the loopholes and rules of the game, even though they look outwardly affluent. So I have a resource. It's a special offer that will help you navigate the entire college application and financial aid process all the way from soup to nuts. So for students, that means coaching on how to compose a list of best fit colleges strategically, how to choose the correct classes in and outside of school, extracurricular activities so you can market your child effectively, how to write an essay so compelling that admissions officers will practically crawl naked over broken glass to admit them. Practically, not actually. What about blowing deadlines? You'll get access to our college planning calendar so that you don't you don't find out about things you should have done after it's too late, deadlines and opportunities. We help parents by showing them how to project out-of-pocket costs for each college on your list, using proprietary tools that high schools just simply don't have. Give you instruction on legal and ethical strategies that you can use to improve your eligibility for financial aid. What about identifying colleges that are generous, that are also best fit colleges? They're not mutually exclusive. How to negotiate and improve financial aid awards. Talked about that a little bit in this presentation. And peace of mind, certainty about this overwhelming emotional process you can have an advocate in your corner solely concerned with your well-being, not with any other hidden agenda. And what you're going to get is the same advice that I've been giving for more than 14 years to families with college-bound children, not for the several $1,000s that you would normally shell out for me personally, for my private consulting, but what amounts to pretty much loose change, just, few pennies. For more information on what I have to share, please visit 10collegecommandments.com/help. It's a new membership that I have rolled out. There are a few bells and whistles in addition to the meat and potatoes that gives you all the instruction I just mentioned. Bells and whistles, I mean bonuses that include a way to call in, to get your questions answered personally, email access. I will review your forms. This is a do-it-yourselfer type of inexpensive, comprehensive way to tackle college planning, yet we don't leave you high and dry. We give you the ability to have me personally look over your shoulder. So there's more information at 10collegecommandments.com/help. And the rest of our contact information, if you have other questions, if you are interested in private consulting, that's how you can contact us. I will say that I am at this point, very rarely taking on new private clients who are not referred to me. So I don't really have much else to say other than that part of my practice is kind of shutting down. But again, that's a different price point. If you go to this website that's listed here, you can get pretty much the same advice, just you'll only pay a fraction of what I charge for private consulting. Okay, thank you very much for watching this presentation. I hope you found it valuable, and I look forward to chatting with you later. Thanks. Bye-bye.